All right, welcome back in, Zach Gelb Show. Big Monday night football game tonight. Vikings and the Giants. Now let's go out to Minnesota and welcome in a former Minnesota Vikings punter, now doing their sideline reports on the Vikings radio network, and that is the great Greg Coleman. Greg, appreciate a few minutes, and how are you?
All is well, Zach. I mean, how else can you be? I mean, hey, Team USA kept the Ryder Cup here in Minnesota over the weekend. The Minnesota Lynx are in the WNBA Finals, and Monday Night Football here with the Giants and the Vikings. All is well, my brother. All is well.
It's such a fun story, the Minnesota Vikings are. I love Mike Zimmer. He had to wait a long time to get that shot, and he finally did get that shot. But then going into this year, you had Super Bowl aspirations. Teddy Bridgewater goes down. Adrian Peterson's out. You're still 3-0. How surprised are you with what the Vikings are doing? And a lot of credit's got to go to the coach and Mike Zimmer.
Well, I think most of the credit goes to the coach, but the majority of the credit goes to those players in that locker room, because they very easily could have folded their tent, number one, after Teddy went down. Number two, after Adrian goes down. Then you lose Matt Khalil. Then you lose Sharif Floyd. But it's the tenor and the constant calming voice of Mike Zimmer. These guys have drank the Kool-Aid. He has always said from day one, it's not about one individual player or superstar. It's great to have that, but it's about the team. It's about the team. That's what he's taught from day one. Those guys have drank the Kool-Aid, and they're believing it, and it shows, because by all accounts, when you lose that kind of power from your offense, 3 all-pro players, and talking Teddy Bridgewater, Adrian Peterson, and Matt Khalil, and a big cog on the defense in Sharif Floyd, you shouldn't be 3-0. You shouldn't even be in the conversation. If they could flex this game when those injuries went down, they would have flexed us away from Monday Night Football. But lo and behold, it's because of Mike Zimmer and his staff. These guys are believing in Zimmer. They're believing in each other, and it's showing with 3-0.
So, me being in New Jersey, I have the melting pot of Jets, Giants, and Eagles fans, and not too many positive things have been said over Sam Bradford for the last 2 years. They make that big trade. Carson Wentz then comes in to Philadelphia, gets the starting job, Bradford to Minnesota. But so far, through the first 2 games, I know he didn't play the first game, Sam Bradford has been managing the game for the Vikings. Where's your confidence at that he could keep this up? Because he's been very inconsistent in his career.
Well, sometimes a guy needs a change of pace. You think back to some of the great players who change of scenery did them well. I mean, a couple of guys on our team, somebody by the name of Fran Tarkenton, who left here, went to the Giants, came back, change of scenery. A guy by the name of Ahmad Rashad goes, from St. Louis to Seattle to Minnesota, change of scenery. Sometimes that's good. And Sam being at the right place at the right time in the right situation. I think this, if there's such an ideal situation, this is it. Because we did not count on Sam to shoulder the burden, because we had that thing called Adrian Peterson in the backfield. But the staple of this football team, the DNA, is the defense of Mike Zimmer. Now let's go back to Sam. Sam has done a great job in digesting this playbook in the short period of time before his start against the Packers, a couple of Sunday nights ago. And I think a lot of the credit goes to Sean Hill, who was the backup quarterback to Teddy Bridgewater. And the reason that I say that, when Sam came here, Sam and Sean had a relationship when they were back in St. Louis. So it was Sean Hill who spent a lot of extra time sharing and talking about the different nomenclature. And, hey, Sam, think about it, how we ran this particular play in St. Louis. Oh, I got it. So it was that kind of an exchange, along with Norv Turner and Scott Turner, quarterback coach, because Sam literally was drinking from a fire hose. But he's done a great job. He doesn't have to manage the whole thing, and so far so good.
Now, his body's very fragile, so you have to protect him. You mentioned Matt Khalil out, Alex Boone back in this week. Tell me a little bit about this Vikings offensive line, because the Giants do have an improved defensive front.
Well, it's been a challenge. They have not caught up to the defense. You talked about a couple of those guys being out. A shock to some of us, but maybe not to that staff. In releasing former All-Pro John Sullivan, who started at center for a number of years. So these guys are gelling together. You got a rookie, not a rookie, he was a rookie last year, T.J. Clemens, who's now in his second year, stepping in for Matt Khalil on that left tackle spot, the blind side. And last week, I think he did a pretty good job. The pass protection has been fairly decent, with the exception of a few plays, here and there in Green Bay. But it's the run production that this offensive line has to get together and get some real strong movement with Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata replacing Adrian Peterson.
Greg Coleman with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, the Jersey. Tonight, Vikings and Giants in Minnesota. How do you like that new stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium?
I love it. Let me tell you something. I have been fortunate enough to be in this game a long time, that I have seen every stadium in the National Football League, and that's even back before we even went indoors at the old Metrodome. And I've even seen Jerry's World. But this is second to none. It is a great fan experience for everyone who comes in. It's not gaudy. It's not overbearing. But it is every sight line, every seat, from the jumbotrons at both ends to the huge, the 3 100-foot doors that open up facing downtown Minneapolis, which I think will be open tonight. The weather here is absolutely perfect. I mean, if you got a chance to look at any of the Ryder Cup, you saw the weather was gorgeous. Tonight is no different. This day is no different. I really, really like what the Wilfs did with this new stadium here.
Now get into the other battle in the trenches. That's on the defensive side of the ball. You have a spectacular player in Everson Griffin. Eric Flowers has been up and down in his career. I could see Everson Griffin feasting on Flowers tonight, Greg.
Well, I think it's going to be the entire team, that entire defensive line. They don't depend on any one particular player on that defensive line to bring the mustard. I mean, if you look at last week against Carolina, I mean, there were 8 different guys that had sacks. Ev was on or in the vicinity of the majority of them, but we're not depending on him. I mean, you got Brian Robinson, you got Linville Joseph, you got Tom Johnson, and you got the young kid, Daniil Hunter, who's coming on, and I think will be one of the great pass rushing specialists in the National Football League for years to come. But, again, it's a team approach on defense. You don't know where the pressure is going to come from. It could come from the four guys up front, or you can, have linebackers and safeties. You never know where Zim, the mad scientist, will, pull out his bag of tricks and put pressure on Eli Manning.
Now, that defense, it's been a team effort like you've been saying. You held the Packers to 14 points and the Panthers to 10. What's the game plan tonight to try to contain the trio of the Giants wide receivers in Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and also Victor Cruz, who does the salsa dancing?
Well, that is a formidable team of receivers. We know that. There's much respect for those guys. And Eli. Let's face it, Eli Manning is the only quarterback to beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. So come on. All of the ups and downs and all that stuff. This guy's got pedigree. I mean, I played with his dad, Archie, here his last year. I remember Eli, Coop, and Peyton being in the locker room on Saturdays having sock fights. So, with that being said, I mean,
who would win?
Well, I'll tell you this quick story, and then we're going to get out of here.
Sure.
But Saturday we bring all the kids, my kids, everybody, kids in Saturday. So after practice we roll them up and have sock fights. Well, they all let's put it this way: one of the Manning boys rolled up tape, athletic tape, in the socks. And I peeked around a corner and got popped right in the eye. So fast forward, 20-plus years, I see Peyton when he first comes in the league. I slap him on the back of the head. I said, "That's for hitting me in the locker room when your dad was with us." Mr. Coleman, I didn't do that. I swear that was Eli or Cooper. I didn't do it. So fast forward 4 years, Eli comes out, same thing. Fortunate enough to do chapel for the Giants. See Eli, slap him on the back of the head, say the same thing. Mr. Coleman, that was not me. I was too young to do that. That was Cooper. So they all lied on Cooper, so Cooper couldn't defend himself. But, what a great family. I mean, Archie, love him to death, what he meant. And I even offered Archie the number 8 so he could retire with that number 8. He said, "Greg, you know what? I'm half the quarterback that I used to be. I'll just take number 4 and I'll be content.
That's unbelievable. Greg, before we let you run, though, the Vikings defense could do some slapping on the head tonight because the Giants' run game is going to have a tough time against that run defense without Rashad Jennings.
Well, it's next man up. It's the same way for the Giants. It's the same way for the Vikings. Whomever goes down, there's a player that's been waiting in the wings to get his opportunity. It's unfortunate that Rashad is down, but I'm not sure who the next man up for the Giants would be. But I guarantee you, he is looking for that opportunity to show those coaches, hey, whenever you call my number, I'm ready. So regardless of who's in the backfield, the guys are going to have to meet him.
Hey, Greg, have a great call today. Appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, guys. All right. Be well.
There's Greg Coleman joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, 609-919-9200. You're listening to Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, WNJE, Trenton, Philadelphia. The next guy up for the New York Football Giants is Orleans Darkwu or Bobby Rainey. Have fun tonight, Giants, trying to run against that Vikings defensive front. If you're going to want to win the game, it's going to have to be Eli to Odell, Eli to Victor Cruz, Eli to Sterling Shepard. So we'll see what the Giants could do tonight through the air because, on the ground, probably not going to be too hot for the New York Football Giants. This is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with hour number 2 after these short messages.